On March 5th, 2018, the world of anime was changed forever when cultural luminary Kimberly Kardashian West told her Instagram followers that 02 from Darling in the Franxx is her, quote, hair inspo. It finally put to bed one of the longest standing questions among anime fans. When will anime become mainstream? It already has. Also, technically speaking, hey Yazzie!
What?
Is Kim Kardashian the biggest cosplay model in the world now?
Shut up, Geoff.
Okay. Putting aside that important philosophical question for a second, this is a big moment. Coming on the tail of Michael B. Jordan professing his love for anime on Twitter, we are seeing a legitimate cultural shift as tastemakers and celebrities begin rebranding anime as not just acceptable, but cool. To be clear, this isn't exactly a new thing. The New Day came to WrestleMania in freaking Saiyan armor in 2016. Animators have been aping the style of and taking inspiration from anime for decades now. And musicians, especially hip-hop artists, have been sneaking lyrics about anime, especially Dragon Ball Z, into their songs for a while. Daft Punk turned one of their albums into a full-on anime movie in 2003, and Kim's own husband, Kanye West, made an entire music video that was basically just Akira. Plus, he has a freaking 1/12 scale model of Char's custom Zaku from Gundam in his goddamn living room. Is it weird that of all the awesome things in Kanye West's life, that's the thing I want most? But this is a little bit different. Kim's not talking about how much she loves the hair of Bulma or Asuna. She's watching and openly gushing about a weird original anime from A1 Pictures and Trigger where teenagers fight massive robot dinosaurs using giant robot waifus that they pilot by fucking. Now, it's not quite peak anime, but it's pretty damn close. Meanwhile, Michael B. Jordan is throwing softballs for the anime uneducated by talking about Naruto and Goku. Netflix is ramping up production of their own original anime. We've gotten 3 in as many months, and Devilman Crybaby is one of the biggest anime of the year, despite being really fucking weird. And Crunchyroll put on a full-blown award show for My Hero Academia and also other anime in a Hollywood theater. I'm excited about this for a lot of reasons. It's cool as hell to think that in 2 decades we've gone from video game publishers actively butchering Japanese box art because looking too anime was bad for business to a world where one of the biggest games on the market is a psychological horror title masquerading as a freeware waifu dating sim. And speaking personally, I'm definitely excited about the prospect of a world where slapping anime faces in a thumbnail is an even bigger draw for views than it already is. But the most exciting thing about the prospect of anime finally getting to the place that superheroes and comic books reached in the early 2000s is that it means, at least potentially, that we could be poised to finally get some good fucking live-action anime movies. And man, has it been a long time coming. While 2017 was a great year for actual anime, live-action adaptations fared, let's say, a little bit worse. Hollywood's track record with live-action anime films can be called spotty in pretty much the same way as herpes, and while Japan is absolutely capable of making good live-action films based on anime and manga, most of the time they don't. To make a good adaptation of something like anime, manga, or comic book stories that are largely defined by their nerdy followings and physically impossible set pieces and storylines, you need a lot of factors to line up just right. Firstly, you need to have the money to actually realize the crazy situations envisioned in the original work. This is the hurdle where most of the Japanese films stumble. Secondly, you need to have a potential audience that's either large or dedicated enough to recoup those production costs. And thirdly, the people with creative control over the product need to have respect for the source material, but also have their own vision for it. These factors have never quite lined up for anime or manga films in the West. Speed Racer had the passion and budget behind it, but no audience interest. Edge of Tomorrow also had a solid budget and a passionate team behind it, but with almost no domestic audience, its box office success came entirely from distancing itself from the original light novel and essentially being presented as an original property. And if you don't count Old Boy, which is only halfway decent because it borrows liberally from the much better Korean film, that's about it as far as good manga movies go. Let's not talk about Ghost in the Shell and Dragon Ball Evolution too much. And that's the state that comic book movies were in before they really took off, either under-budgeted or changed beyond all recognition in their adaptations. And on the rare occasion that a studio did get an adaptation right and make money off of it, they would almost invariably run it into the ground with rushed, poorly planned sequels. Warner Brothers, I'd say never change, but you never will. The creators who really loved comic book concepts like superheroes were often better off trying to create original IP, such as Paul Verhoeven's RoboCop, which has also happened with anime. The Wachowskis famously used Ghost in the Shell to pitch The Matrix to studio executives. In the late 90s and early 2000s, that started to change as more comic book fans began working their way into the industry, and syndicated cartoons expanded the potential audience for superheroes exponentially. As the millennium turned over, we got a few decently faithful films that downplayed the goofier aspects of comic books in favor of 90s edge. But all it took was the right guy in the right place to change all of that. When Sam Raimi was given the reins to Spider-Man, instead of sticking to current market trends, he decided to bring the comics and the campy cartoon that he remembered from his childhood to life on the big screen. Raimi's track record inspired enough faith in Sony to secure the budget he needed to make the film right, and the audience, many of whom had grown up with the 90s cartoon from Fox, the comics, and the video games, came out to see it in droves. As did general audiences, since the film was designed to introduce new fans to the franchise in the same way that the old show had once done for Raimi. And once Spider-Man proved that truly faithful comic book movies could be successful, like to the point of setting new box office records, the doors, or maybe I should call them floodgates, were open for more to be made. I think anime is entering its Blade and X-Men period right now. Thanks to broad availability on Crunchyroll, Netflix, Hulu, and other platforms, more people are watching anime than ever before. It's not quite the same thing as the syndicated cartoon boom of the 90s, but the effect is similar. A large number of people, most crucially the younger people who actually go to see movies, are obsessed with new series like Attack on Titan, One Punch Man, My Hero Academia, and yeah, even SAO. And with their recent reboots, older series like Dragon Ball and Boruto's Dad are more popular than they've ever been. The anime fandom has also been around long enough that people who grew up watching anime have had a chance to work their way up to creative positions in the entertainment industry. Studios are also willing to take big chances on anime properties right now, and while the failure of Ghost in the Shell might be making them reconsider that, they're not quite at the point of giving up just yet. Everything is lined up for the right adaptation made by the right team to be a hit. And if we do get our Spider-Man, that will open the door for us to get our Spider-Man 2, our Dark Knight, our Hellboy, and maybe even our Iron Man. Yeah, I know. At face value, that sounds kinda horrible. As the consistent failures of Warner Brothers, Sony, and Universal have proven, getting a cinematic universe right is really tricky. This excellent video from Movies with Mikey explains where those franchises fail and Disney's succeed. There's a good chance that the first attempt at a shared anime universe will flop, but if a studio can attempt it and stick the landing, I think the payoff could be really incredible. Can you actually imagine the insanity of seeing something like Raildex or the Nasuverse becoming a shared universe franchise with interconnected film adaptations of Garden of Sinners, Fate, Tsukuyomi, and even more obscure side stories running alongside each other? Or more realistically, just imagine the potentially monolithic success of a properly executed Gundam universe. The Universal Century setting is almost purpose-built for this kind of storytelling. It could follow the Star Wars model. Every other year, we'd get a new installment of the ongoing saga of Amuro Ray, while in alternating years, we'd enjoy side stories like Thunderbolt or Unicorn, or prequel movies based on Gundam the Origin that focus on Char. Or maybe we'll see a shared universe spring from the connections between Dengeki Bunko light novels like Oremo and Ero Manga Sensei, where the Emoto Vengers team up to stop an alien menace from stopping them from fucking their brothers, and somebody please kill me. I don't want you guys getting the wrong idea here. I'm not just hyped about the prospect of shared anime universes because it means I get lots of entries in my favorite franchises and lots of movies to talk about on this channel, or because it means that studios would make lots of money. Although, to be clear to any studio execs who might be listening to this video, if you do this right, you will absolutely make mountains of money. I'm mainly hyped because of the creative potential here. While people do like to bang on about how creatively bankrupt Hollywood is, especially the cinematic universe movies, the truth is that the financial stability provided by this shared universe model allows for some real, honest-to-God risk-taking, which is in very short supply in the wider world of mainstream cinema. Sure, every year or every other year we do get a tentpole blockbuster from Marvel that plays it safe, like the Avengers movies, or the first two Iron Man and Thor movies, but between those we get to see artists, real artists, apply their distinctive vision to boundary-pushing works. Guardians of the Galaxy is a creative, musically driven action comedy that is as much James Gunn's baby as it is Disney's cash cow. Doctor Strange is the kind of insane special effects marvel that you'd expect to see in a student demo reel rather than a theatrical release. Spider-Man Homecoming is as much an excellent twee hipster coming-of-age story as it is a big Hollywood action movie. And they've even begun taking risks with their tentpole series. Iron Man 3 was a weird, wild movie that only Shane Black could have dreamed up, and Thor Ragnarok is a Taika Waititi comedy through and through, one that's arguably on par with What We Do in the Shadows. And then there's Ryan Coogler's Black Panther, a film that's easily as politically charged as Creed or Fruitvale Station before it, but which also happens to work as a big, fun, set-piece driven action movie. One that was given a budget and marketing push on par with the biggest Marvel films and has paid that off by being the first film with a predominantly black cast to gross over $1 billion at the box office. That is, to put it mildly, a big fucking deal. And it never would have happened without Marvel's money printing machine giving it the room to comfortably be made. Because as much as anyone who makes art wants to just, make art, at the end of the day, we first have to make sure that we have food to eat and a bed to sleep in while we're busy making that art. If I couldn't do that, I'd be writing ad copy instead of video scripts. By the same token, if X-Men were not a consistent moneymaker for Fox, do you really think they would have ever taken a chance on a raunchy R-rated comedy like Deadpool, or a bloody philosophical hard R action flick like Logan? I seriously doubt it. In the long term, if anime and manga adaptations can achieve that same level of financial reliability, we could get some truly insane movies that are just unthinkable now. Imagine a world where a Dragon Ball Z cinematic universe takes off, where yearly installments about Goku prop up side stories that follow Vegeta, Piccolo, or future Trunks, or Arale and Jaco, or, let's dare to dream for a moment, a Guardians-esque buddy comedy about the pre-Namek adventures of the Ginyu Force, or a great Saiyaman movie. Hell, we don't even need a cinematic universe to take off for crazy stuff like that to happen. As long as, say, the Shonen Jump brand becomes successful enough, we could see a licensing gold rush that leads to movies based on popular but less mainstream series like Food Wars, Gintama, or even JoJo's Bizarre Adventure. The prospect of those movies happening at all, let alone being good, seems absolutely impossible now, but before the 2000s, it seemed equally impossible that we'd ever see films based on Iron Man, Ant-Man, Doctor Strange and Black Panther, or Watchmen and V for Vendetta, or indie comics like Kick-Ass and Scott Pilgrim. And yet, here we are. If the anime market keeps expanding like it has been, and if Hollywood can actually figure out how to tap into it, we may find ourselves living in a world where a star-studded, big-budget adaptation of Hunter x Hunter isn't just possible, it's inevitable. But therein lies the rub. For any of this to happen, Hollywood first has to start getting anime adaptations right. They need to start getting more right than they get wrong. But before they can even do that, they have to really nail just one. Make something that stays true in spirit to the original work, while also carrying the vision of its director and, more importantly, succeeding as a standalone film. But what would that even look like? Actually, it might look like this. Alita: Battle Angel is another one of those passion projects that I'm so fond of. Obviously, you don't look to a moderately successful manga with a short OVA adaptation for a quick cash grab. James Cameron has been working on the Alita movie on and off since the year 2000, and when he finally got around to producing it in 2015, he reportedly handed director Robert Rodriguez a 186-page screenplay and 600 pages of notes, which Rodriguez, to his credit, managed to condense to a workable length in order to secure the job. So we have a director and producer who are intimately familiar with the source material and care a lot about doing it justice, both of whom are well known for putting their own stamp on the movies they make. And with reportedly a little under $200 million to play around with, there's little stopping them from bringing their crazy vision to life. But the question is, can it really succeed? While anime in general is growing in popularity, the Battle Angel manga doesn't have a huge built-in audience. And there's also the problem that the photorealistic anime-stylized Alita looks just a little bit, how can I put this nicely, creepy. It was also pushed back from a July release to December 21st by Fox, which means it has to compete with the Han Solo movie at the box office. James Cameron has managed to clear all of those hurdles before, though, spawning a massive franchise from nothing at the start of his career with Terminator, and another one with Avatar, which also had a bit of an uncanny valley problem to overcome and was a December release, though it didn't have to compete with Star Wars. So it's not impossible for Alita to be a hit, but it's going to need a huge marketing push to do it, and there's no guarantee that that will work or even happen with Disney poised to acquire Fox. If Alita does succeed, that's amazing, but if it doesn't, we do have other prospects. Taika Waititi is the latest director attached to Warner Brothers' long in limbo Akira adaptation, and in addition to being a fan of the manga, he's also one of the best directors currently working in Hollywood. And as one of the most well-regarded and well-known anime of all time, Akira has a proven audience. Assuming the project moves forward with a sizable budget and he's allowed to run with his vision of an authentic Japanese setting and cast, it's all but guaranteed to be a hit. But that's still a big assumption. Warner Brothers has been not making Akira for over 15 years now, and there's no guarantee that this will be the time they finally stop and actually do it. So, if not a remake of one of the oldest big anime films, why not one of the newest? J.J. Abrams is currently working on adapting Makoto Shinkai's smash hit Your Name, and while to me that seems like nothing but a shameless and pointless cash grab, considering that the movie just came out and looks great, it is possible that Abrams genuinely loves the film and wants to build something great from it. The fact that Arrival writer Eric Haserer is working on the screenplay is definitely a good sign, but then he also wrote the awful soft reboot of The Thing, so that's not something to be overly optimistic about. There's also a Boruto's Dad film in the works right now at Lionsgate, but it's kinda hard to pin down whether it has any chance of being good. Michael Gracie, the director, has only one film under his belt, The Greatest Showman, which I haven't seen yet, but I have heard mixed things about. However, he did come to directing from a long career as a special effects artist, and that's an area of expertise that will no doubt come into play in any Boruto's Dad adaptation. So maybe he'll pull some visual effects magic out of his hat and surprise us with this one. Now, aside from adaptations that haven't been announced yet, there is one other possibility. The first good Western anime adaptation might not be a film at all. In the age of streaming, serialized TV shows have gotten bigger, bolder, and more popular than ever. Both Marvel and DC have wildly successful TV series right now, so what's to stop an anime adaptation from achieving similar success? The latest live-action form of Cowboy Bebop to emerge from the film's production hell is a TV series from Tomorrow Studios, who are also working on a One Piece show. Now, both shows are currently just in development, so there's no guarantee that either one will be made, but if they are, both have a lot of potential. And so does the live-action version of Sword Art Online, which, it was reported last month, has been sold to Netflix and will be made. While details on the project are scarce, its writer, Laeta Kalogridis, is also the creator of Altered Carbon, which is pretty good. On top of that, she wrote Shutter Island, which is really good, and more importantly, she co-wrote James Cameron's Alita Battle Angel script. You know, the one that would have been over 3 hours long if they didn't cut it down. So SAO is being helmed by a talented writer with a track record of good adaptations and apparently a great deal of passion for science fiction and anime. Assuming that she's actually allowed to correct the massive glaring problems with the original story, and that's a lot more likely in an American adaptation than a Japanese one, this could be exactly what SAO needs. A good writer taking Kawahara's good ideas and actually doing something good with them. And since SAO is one of the most popular anime in the world, we know that the audience is out there to make this a hit if they get it right. Any one of these films or shows could be the one that pushes anime through to mainstream Hollywood success. Or all of them could be absolute bombs. Either way, they're all going to give me plenty to talk about, especially SAO, and even if they suck, I've still got all this great anime to watch, so I'm perfectly happy. Speaking of great anime, I recently helped Chris Stuckman write a book about that very subject. Anime Impact is a book of essays from prominent figures in the anime community and the broader nerd community, including Chris himself, Arcada, Bennett the Sage, Pedantic Romantic, the nostalgia critic Doug Walker and his brother Rob, Mark Crilly, and Ready Player One author Ernest Cline. And also me! I wrote 3 essays for the book. One about JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, one about Summer Wars, and one about, what else? SAO. The book's focus isn't on building a list of essential anime, but rather about giving the various writers space to talk about shows and movies that are personally important to them, telling stories that only they could tell. It's a phenomenal collection with a lot of talent behind it, and I am so proud to have been given the chance to work on it. If you click the link in the doobly-doo, you can pre-order it in either Kindle ebook or hardcover format, whatever you prefer. If you can't wait to read my wise words about anime in that book though, you can read the scripts from my videos by supporting my Patreon, like these fine folks on the right side of the screen have. And if you want to see some of those videos for yourself, check out the recommendations on the left. I'm Geoff Thew, professional shitbag, signing out from my mother's basement.